What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. I'm back once again with a brand new video today. Following up on something that I wanted to do as we lead into the Oscars 2024 here that's set to go ahead and start in March. I really wanted to highlight some of the best picture films that are in the category that are being nominated this year. There's a plenty of them that I have not had the opportunity to check out. I haven't finished all of Oppenheimer. I have seen Barbie, even though I haven't done a review for it yet. But I wanted to really tackle some of these films that I have not really heard too much about or familiar with, that maybe I've seen a poster or a trailer, but just never got the opportunity to see them in theaters. So lately, I've been trying to find out which ones are currently on streaming that I can go ahead and watch for free before I can go ahead and start maybe renting or buying some of the other ones to certainly check out for you guys. So I thought it'd be pretty neat if maybe like the weeks leading up into the Oscars, maybe we do a review or two of some of the Oscar nominees and really give you guys our thoughts in regards to them and maybe open your eyes to have you guys personally check them out so that you're much better prepared going into the Oscar season. So, the film that we're going to go ahead and talk about today is The Holdovers. Now, I actually remember seeing this trailer in the theaters and thinking to myself, like, man, the aesthetics and the way that they've just filmed this, it makes it feel like it's being filmed during the 70s, like in the same time period in which this movie is certainly set. And there was something about it that kind of stuck out to me, like just the way that it was presented. It just felt like an old school sort of trailer. And so it definitely piqued my interest. I don't know if I was like raring to go see it out in theaters, but to be honest with you, I'm glad that I wind up getting an opportunity to see this and sit down in my house. I watched this on Peacock. I attempted to watch it at first and I fell asleep originally on my first try, but that's me trying to watch a movie at like 11:30 midnight sort of thing because I claim to be a night owl these days, but I'm like in my 40s. Like I just can't do it anymore. So I had the opportunity to have some alone time, turn most of the lights off, maybe turn some of the background lights on sort of thing, and just pop this movie in. And before I knew it, I feel like I was just sort of in that world. This movie had an interesting way of just really engulfing me in. I won't lie, the first act was a little bit rough to kind of get through, but you are introduced to some pretty fascinating characters. For me, at least, the standout in this movie are two people. Paul Giamatti, who I am just a really big fan of. I know most people probably didn't care for this movie, but I loved him in the M. Night Shyamalan movie, Lady in the Water. I think that's one of the reasons why I really enjoyed that movie, even though it's probably more of a guilty pleasure. And there's another actor by the name of Dominic Sessa in here. I believe this is like his first big film, if I'm not mistaken. And to be quite frank with you, I was pretty blown away by him. But let me go ahead and read the synopsis for you guys. This says it's a cranky history teacher at a remote prep school is forced to remain on campus over the holidays with a troubled student who has no place to go and a grieving cook. So there are three main characters in this movie, certainly worth paying attention to. So again, if you haven't had the opportunity to check out The Holdovers, if you want to yourself, it is currently over on Peacock, is how I certainly watched it. So yeah, the first half, or I don't want to say the first act of this movie is a little bit slow for me, but you really establish just, I mean, the synopsis is kind to the act, to the character that Paul Giamatti plays in here as the cranky teacher. He's not only cranky, but he's a little bit of an asshole for sure. The way that he talks about his students, just his mindset, he's very much an old school sort of grouch, if you will. So that definitely very much gets highlighted and really sets the ground for how he winds up being the one that gets stuck with the job of being stuck over there for the holidays. It's about maybe a 2-week period during the holiday season. And some kids just don't get the opportunity to go home, right? Some kids are foreign students, so they just can't leave and then come back sort of 2 weeks later. In our main character's sense, the character that Dominic winds up playing in here, you can definitely tell that there's certainly some troubles at home. He clearly does not get along very well with his parents, and the idea of them really kind of sort of leaving him behind. For me, this movie really gets interesting because the character that Dominic plays in here, he plays Angus Tully. He's not the only student that winds up getting left behind. And so it is fascinating to see some of his relationships with the characters, but surprisingly, it's really when majority of those characters wind up leaving in this film. I won't explain how they wind up leaving, but it really does sort of put Paul Giamatti's character, Mr. Paul Hunnam, Dominic's character, Angus Tully, and another actress in here, Divine Joy Randolph, who plays a character by the name of Mary Lamb. She is, in fact, the grieving cook, and she winds up getting stuck on campus because this is really her first true year. She just lost her son, if I'm not mistaken, and this is really her first holiday alone. So, one of the things that I really enjoyed was just really seeing the chemistry of all three of them on screen, and really how they handle sort of their own life and personal struggles and how that sort of bounces sort of off each other. I eventually really came to enjoy just their connection in here. Besides kind of driving each other crazy and getting on each other's nerves, you can clearly see that they wind up growing a very great bond by the end of this movie, a very meaningful one at that, to certainly say the least. And seeing that journey in here, I thought was pretty compelling. I will say, I was a really big fan of the director's work in here. The editing seemed fascinating to me. They had a lot of sort of fade ins and fade outs of certain, going from scene to scene sort of thing, and it felt very like old school editing techniques that they probably did back in the 70s. I mean, again, if they really wanted to engulf you in the idea of making you believe that this movie was filmed in the 70s, I think they did a remarkable job in that regards. I think this film looks great, and it does have a sense of, I don't want to say coziness, but like as the film goes on, it really does start feeling like a holiday film, not full of cheer or anything like that, but the idea of like the I don't want to say even what the meaning of the holidays certainly are, but just what the holidays tend to do to people in the sense of making you open up a little bit more, right? Appreciating what you certainly have around you, sort of thing. And I think there's some really great sort of life lessons that a teacher like Paul Hunnam, regardless of his crankiness, really teaches somebody like Angus Tully, and he almost sort of becomes like this father figure, from going from this cranky asshole teacher to them constantly clashing and butting heads. I mean, they definitely have sort of a sharp tongue and letting you know exactly how you feel. But the idea of them battling with each other and the pull and pull eventually not only allows them to understand each other better, but grow a significant bond where you see at the end of the film, there is a level of sacrifice that Paul Hunnam, played by Paul Giamatti in here, really does, that just kind of opens your eyes and furthers those connections that a lot of these characters have. And for me, I think I really took a lot out of this film on a personal level, just based off of the relationship between Paul and Angus in here. The idea of Paul kind of turning into that father figure and really being there for Angus Tully when his parents certainly aren't. And I think really teaching a very valuable lesson. And I think sometimes as we get older as people, I don't want to say that we become ashamed of our past or anything like that, but the things that have happened in our past definitely does scar us, right? And for me, it's one of those things of how to overcome those scars, how to be very much self-aware of the things that you've kind of gone through in your life that maybe sometimes makes you feel like you're sort of stuck in a rut. I think there's also a really great valuable lesson too of the idea of maybe us being afraid of sort of following in our parents' footsteps from time to time. The idea that we want to be so independent that before we know it, when we're in our 30s or even in our 40s, we start realizing like, man, maybe I'm become a little bit more like our parents. But the idea of really just sort of solidifying your own role and sort of becoming your own man and not feeling like your history is set to repeat itself as what your parents certainly did, right? That you have that power to certainly change the outcome of your life and nobody else. And so I just thought it was pretty eye-opening here, just seeing what the personal struggles for some of these characters really were and how they wind up really overcoming them and wind up learning from each other sort of at the end of the day. So I think they had some really powerful stuff. I thought Joy Randolph as Marion here as the cook was a great sort of opposite for somebody like Paul Giamatti's Paul Hunnam, the teacher, really allowing him to open up, be more honest with himself and the people around him. And to be quite frank with you, like, I love Paul Giamatti, and for me, I think this is some of his best work that I've seen him in. I think he just embodies that character so well. His mannerisms, just the way he delivers his lines, maybe some of the ad lib expressions that sort of come along with it. It just feels like I'm not even watching Paul Giamatti, like I'm just watching this cranky school teacher that winds up teaching like ancient civilization history or something like that. Like he just becomes the actor, the character himself. And so I can see why Paul Giamatti is definitely being nominated as best actor. Again, while I have not had the opportunity to see a lot of the other films, I enjoyed Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer, but I think Paul Giamatti crushed this role, honestly. And Dominic Sessa, again, somebody who was in their first sort of major film. I thought, especially having to work opposite of somebody like Paul Giamatti, I think he did incredible. He's got this sense, he's got this look in his eyes that kind of draw him in. Great sort of performance. I'm kind of surprised he wasn't billed as best, on the category for best supporting actor. But again, when you've only got 5 spots in those categories, I can understand. But man, he definitely impressed me, and it's something, a character or actor, I should say, that I'm definitely going to go ahead and keep my eye on in the future. I think Divine Joy Randolph is nominated in here as supporting actress. There are some really deep emotional moments for her in here. I thought her performance was okay, but I would be interested to see what all the other nominees certainly wind up doing in here. So, overall, I really enjoyed this movie, quite frankly. I don't know if this is a film for everybody, but I think if you're a fan of film and movies, I think if you just sit back and just let yourself be engulfed in the movie and just sort of enjoy the journey that it winds up taking you on, I think at the end of the day, you'll walk out really enjoying this movie and being pleased that you certainly watched it. I'm not going to grade it right now. I'm probably going to go ahead and think about it a little bit more, maybe have a grade for it by the end of this weekend. But I can definitely understand why The Holdovers is certainly nominated. I don't know if I've enjoyed it more than, say, Oppenheimer, but as far as like a completed film, great editing, amazing cinematography, very good story, to be quite honest with you, I could definitely see why it's certainly in the running. But look, guys, at the end of the day, these are just simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. Have you checked out The Holdover? Is there anything that I'm missing that you guys want to further talk about? What really jumped out to you? Were you impressed with some of the performances? Were you not? Was this not your type of movie? I always want to know your thoughts, guys. At the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions, but I want to know yours. So let me know your thoughts down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for us here, guys. We'll certainly see you later, but until then, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.